and then we'll post it for Rob or whoever. But yeah, so I just added you to the invite for the 2 p.m. JST, which is what it should be. And yeah, the main reason I did that is because Takayuki, who emailed the list and was interested in helping out, he said that he can do a call in that time slot, but he can't make this one. And I just wanted to, have a chance to talk to him. And apparently he got the app set up. He's just kind of like looking for like where to go next. And so this might even be a good chance for,
we'll have to talk to him, ask him what his interests are and what he wants to work on, or maybe, suggest something easy that he can use to generate familiarity.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, this got me thinking that probably what needs to happen, and I guess I need to do it, but I just haven't had the time to do it, is it's probably time to bust up this GitHub issue, like maybe even close this one out and open up some new issues for like the longer tail of this stuff. Because ultimately what I'd love to be able to do is like totally kill real time. But I feel like that's like a smaller priority right now. It's more of like a performance thing. And we can't kill off real time until we get rid of these graphs. But it's like,
need a Grafana equivalent, or
some sort of like, the other thing, like since we have graphs here that seem to work pretty nicely.
The one you pulled up as an example shows no data whatsoever.
Yeah, true. But since we have some graphs here, that one doesn't have graphs. Let me pull up mine. I know mine does. I was thinking we should probably look at doing something like this, but on the map, which actually we sort of already do for the solar casts. Yeah. Well, so basically, I think we can just take this and put it here, and then that way we won't have these embeds anymore.
Can these pop-ups be an embedded, essentially something with one of the Grafana dashboards?
I think they could, yeah. And it probably won't, like, it'll be a little sluggish because you'll have to wait for Grafana to load in, but it won't be that bad. But anyway,
especially if it's a single. I think if the defaults are set for like last 24 or 48 hours, Grafana responds pretty quick on stuff like that.
Well, the main thing I'm worried about is just like, for you, it responds pretty quick because you have like a warm browser cache most of the time. But for people that don't, the first thing they're going to have to do is download, I think it's like the 6 megabyte, Grafana JavaScript bundle. And that's going to be notably slower than these.
And it'll happen in the background, so they'll just think it's broken.
You probably, yeah. And so what I think would be even better is to do something like this, because these are just like live generated graphs. Like they're going to look a lot nicer. And it eliminates the dependency on the real-time server. But anyway, getting back to the thing that has my attention right now is that, like, when we spec this out, we're like, all right, let's kill real-time because it's costing us a ton of database money. If we can do that, we can shut down real-time. We can probably make the database a lot smaller and just reduce overall spend with sort of the scope of work here. But this was open back in end of 2019, and one of the big things that have changed since then is the introduction of the air node. And so we ended up like using that work, like the work that was originally spec'd to kill real time ended up being handy because it provided a really nice place for us to start doing this, which can be the home for air node. But this needs some more polish, right? Like we need to get some names in there. Some of these graphs it's like interesting, but probably like instead of a switch, like Ray was saying, we should probably just have like 2 y-axes. The charging graph should be an overlay on the voltage graph, for example. Like there's a bunch of tiny little fixes that this page is going to need before it can take over for something like this, or even something like this, right? Like the Grafana dashboard itself has a lot more capability than this does today.
Well, I'm afraid there may be an aspect of this that you haven't anticipated that may make this may change the character of this, and that is that the number of devices that use the old pop-ups is suffering attrition because people aren't maintaining them as they fall offline. At some point, there are going to be so many more air nodes and new devices that maybe
maybe these old point casts might not even be useful
worth
anymore.
Supporting, right?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we can just delete them and be done. That would be nice.
I mean, you can still get to their pages, and you can still look at them in other ways. Just not having them pop up on the main map, when they become a minority, might be a viable place for this.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Basically, just like removing these images and just having a link over to a page, kind of like this one. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I think it feels like what we need is like a little bit of GitHub story rework. I think this one, so I tried, Ray had a lot of nice feedback actually when originally, because Peter was like, oh, let's just point it straight to Safecast. What, like 2 weeks ago, something like that. And then Ray pointed out like there's a couple of things that like this page, and actually it looks like it's just exploding right now. There's a couple of things that this page needs before Ray felt like it was a really good replacement for what we have here today. And so I think probably like this isn't in progress, but probably what we should do is like either close this out and make some new version of it, like what you talked about, like just kill the images, for example,
Right.
and pick up this one, or I guess
Well,
like
maybe what we need to do is close that one and open a new task which has more, more definitional goals than programming goals. Is okay, let's decide what we're going to do, and then once we decide what we're going to do, then we can break it down into tasks and hope to attract some people to work on it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
this
so
one,
let's
I
do
think
that
that one is
because we
pretty
already have image
largely
attachments
done.
too.
Huh? There's all the
The-
important parts of that one are done, aren't they?
Yeah, and the image attachments checkbox wasn't checked yet, but we have image attachments now too. So
Yeah.
cool. So let's do that. I'll open up a new issue for just like removing the real-time
Dependency.
images. Yeah.
Yeah, and to hear Ray tells me regularly that the 3G devices are going to, lose their connectivity soon.
Yeah,
anyway.
eventually 3G is going to go away.
So, but and when that is up to debate. It could be you hear, if you talk to telecommunications people, it says, oh, we want to get rid of that right away because it's costly and it's deprecated and blah blah. But in Japan, at the very least, I think it'll be around for quite a while because there are an awful lot of vending machines, that are out there that are using it, and so there's going to be a reason to at least have some support for it. So I don't think our devices in Japan will fall offline because the cell towers, turn off anytime in the next, 24 to 36 months. I mean, there's still support for PHS in Japan. And when's the last time you heard of anybody using a PHS handset?
I didn't even know it was a thing. It's a new acronym on me.
It had to do with vending machines again. The PHS system was rolled out in the 90s, and the cooperation with the Coca-Cola was important because at that time Coca-Cola was running hard wires to their vending machines to get stock information. Since they had a phone line, they could be the base station for the PHS system. But then it transitioned to where, well, hey, we've already got one machine with a hard line. Well, let's just put receivers and all the other ones within radio range of it. And eventually, they became the most of the vending machines now still report their stock and things over the PHS system. So, or that data may be pushing 8 years old now. Maybe they've moved away from it by now, but I can definitely see, Coca-Cola in Japan being interested in note cards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the idea of like cheap 10-year.
Well, yeah, 10 years of connectivity with plenty of data for what they exchange and not having to have a subscription service. So, yeah, I would think that they would be, that would be a good use, because vending machines, you're kind of like our sensors. What do they send? A couple hundred bytes a day?
Yep, agreed. So let's do that. And same real time. I probably need to open a couple other issues here too. This is where like I wish GitHub issues were a lot easy. Because there's the concept of like
line item copy or line item split or things.
Yeah. And like, yeah, it's also just like, I have to like open a new tab and like go to the right page and like type the whole thing in and then like hit save and then like copy it back to this issue for the whole tracking. Like, anyway, and so I think the only other thing we need is an
First
issue
world
around,
problems.
yeah, basically. Like if it was just a Google Doc, you just like copy and paste stuff around, but then people don't know what to pick up. Let me see, do we have, yeah, okay, so we need an issue around like ability, need to allow users to claim their device stories from, I'll just use mine. Story and take some ownership of its data, because that was the last thing. And I know Peter was kind of interested in being able to do that. 800 for device. Cool. And with that, we can close this one.
Good.
And then it's a question of the landing page enhancements, because Ray had a lot of good points that we should work on there. And also the fact that the thing that I linked to is broken, so we need to make that not broken. Donation will be another, like this one's gonna be super easy. Like literally, it's just like a yellow banner on a couple of pages and that's it. So this will be like almost one of the simplest issues ever.
What about, I don't think we have any, are there decluttering algorithms on the map?
How do you mean decluttering?
Well, when you zoom back and you've got, you know, right now we've
like
got
this?
Dozens of sensors, but when there are tens of thousands,
nah.
There probably is a desire to, you know, I've seen other graphical interfaces where when you zoom back, you know, it becomes a circle that says 35, and that means there's 35 devices in this, you know, under this icon. And when you zoom in on it, then the ones that have now outside of the center of the city or whatever, and the main circle becomes 20, and the 15 of them appear around it.
So I would say
enough density to do that before or to worry about it.
I would say that sort of falls under this one, because what I was hoping is we could do, you know, some sort of like an AirNote page. It doesn't, I don't necessarily specify grouping, but you know, I can put a comment on this one that one of the things we should think about is a, you know, how is the map going to look when we have 3,000 AirNotes out there? Because right now, this obviously is not gonna, this implementation is not gonna hold up.
You know, not just the number of AirNotes, but I could easily see somebody getting enthusiastic and buying 100 of them for a school system or something, and putting them all within, you know, 5-10 kilometers of each other. So you'd suddenly have one very dense region of them, and you know, still nothing in most of the world.
Yeah. Let me put
yeah, that's kind of where they're including each other.
Yep, we should be thinking about how to display many sensors as well. Today on the map, we don't do any sort of aggregation. Icons just overlap. This will probably get very messy as we in the field.
Yeah, and it's one thing on a desktop where you've got a mouse and you can pick a single pixel. It's something else when you're on a phone, you know, and the thing you're using a finger, and you just can't get the one you want.
Yep. Cool. And I was hoping Emre would be able to help us out here. Okay, here's this image that I've been using as sort of our, you know, potential target where they do like does this have, so in this screenshot, it has numbers, and then it also, you see how these have like a border around them, and this one's just a flat line. That's how they distinguish between, like this one is 94, but it's more than one sensor. This one is 80, but it's only one sensor. And so like when you get down to just like one sensor in the cluster, it'll give you a different icon than if it's averaging for multiple.
I see. And the number is not the number of sensors contributing to that color. It's the
It's
actual
the
link.
average AQI, yeah.
Okay. And so the halo, the sort of halo around them means that this is based on more than one device.
Yeah. And then when you
That's
click on
kinda
it, it'll like zoom in and
Mhm.
show you the different sensors that make up that device. So so yeah, and I was hoping Emery would help us out here, but I haven't heard anything from him in quite a while.
I talked to Yamadera-san at Eyes
Oh, sorry, not
Japan.
Emery. Batran was going to work on this, and I haven't heard anything for Batran either.
Okay.
Noting that seems a little quiet. He's active on Slack, so I'll ping him and see what's up. Emery was another one, but Emery wasn't working on this. Emery was working on the charts and graphs that we were talking about earlier, which is like basically this space.
Stories, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm headed up to Fukushima again next week
Cool.
to replace the couple of the failed sensors, the one that like yours that had a bad solar panel.
Yep. Cool.
And maybe place another one or a couple more. I don't know. I had a lot of ambition for the next trip, and that's all been pretty much scaled back now because just the transition from March to April broke a lot of stuff, in government and in agreements and things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, can we get permission to get? No,
we'll
it's
get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and people that we know that are in government and businesses up there have been transferred, and so there's new people, and
yeah, that's frustrating.
I was hoping to get into the get permission to get in and put in 2 more SolarCast Nanos, in the locations where there sort of are gaps in the semicircle around Aichi, but maybe in May.
I think so. This one was also a Peter ask. Yeah, and so we have a couple of help wanteds that hopefully folks like Takayuki can join in on. Yeah, but it'd be great to have someone, because Nick has been our only map creator for basically ever. So it'd be great to have someone that can step up as a new map creator that can help us
before Nick, we had maps.
Yeah.
We just didn't have as good a maps.
Yeah, true. So I was hoping Batran would be able to fill that void in the team skill set, because I am not a map maker. So we need someone who can explore the space and see, I put some feelers out to like, CartoDB folks and things like that, but never. I talked to some what is it? It's not OpenStreetMap, Mapbox. That's what it is. I talked to some Mapbox people as well, but like I haven't been able to get anyone to sign on to be like, oh yeah, we'll make an awesome app for you. Like it's usually like, oh, that sounds really interesting, and then crickets. Yeah, so it'd be great to find someone who can start looking at how to display this better. And it's funny because like I bet Nick could do it like overnight.
After claiming it was impossible, right?
Yeah, he would. Yeah, he would say like, "There's no way this is going to work," and they'd be like, he'd come back the next day and say,
12
"Oh,
hours later, 12 hours later, yeah, it's excellent."
Yeah, because we need some sort of we need more work here, and it's unclear exactly what needs to happen. Originally, we were saying like, oh, maybe we need like interpolation, but I think I understand well enough now that actually like full on interpolation like this is probably not going to make sense. Like the AQI page does it, but one of the things Nick called out is like, if you look, there's like weird stuff. Like here, like the interpolation is like really red, and then there's like a green dot. So like, the interpolation like looks really neat, but might not actually be that meaningful. Right. But in the meantime, we definitely need something, interpolation or no, we need something that's not going to have like this clustering problem. And the triangles were interesting, but I think people seem to be mostly just confused at what the triangles are trying to tell you. So I think we might want to do, either just like an AQI number or maybe some sort of little embedded timeline, like a little spark line or something. Like, someone needs to do some experimentation and try to come up with something that's going to make sense in the thousands of sensors world that we're going to be in eventually.
And that's a kind of communication language, a visual language that is, not hasn't really settled out yet, and it may be that the community of different things are being done, or somebody to come up with something that works better. The triangles and the whatever icons are clever and effective if you know, but like you say, they don't have that intuitiveness that somebody, because it's not used enough places.
Yep.
The language of UIs has progressed, but it hasn't, that particular one hasn't settled down yet.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, so I think with that, with the big device story issue closed, I think we can focus more on stuff like this.
Okay.
We still have some reporting stuff that I'm poking around on, and then we also have, I think Samir is going to join the 2 o'clock as well, or Samira, and Samira was comes from some data analytics background. And so I was curious to have them take a look at the flexible data access story, because today we have this situation where we run a lot of these nightly or in some cases like hourly exports, but they're pretty expensive and they're not very flexible. Like we can add new reports if someone comes to us and tells us what they want, but wouldn't it be awesome if we had some sort of way that people could just have a whole bucket of the data, and here's a way to run a query on your own, or here's a database snapshot they can do whatever you want with, or I think we could be doing a lot better in terms of making sure that the data is all out there for people to play around with, because we have it out there right now in a couple of forms, but maybe not always the forms that people are looking for.
Well, let's just put this off then until for another 2.5 hours, and we'll pick it up then.
Yep, pretty much.
Okay.
Sounds good.
See you this
afternoon.
afternoon.
All right,
yep.
Bye.